come on time. So people like that, it's true they're always careful to come on time. But the problem is they're struggling with punctuality. And because there's a part of them that doesn't want to come on time, that's why they're always on time. But they struggle with punctuality. So when they see someone who's impunctual, it triggers them. Because even though they're always on time, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a sugya.
So if it's not sugya for you, so then I don't think it's, you just be curious. Oh, it's funny how there'll be no emotional trigger.
Right.
In other words, you can be on a plane and you can be annoyed by the fact that there's noise and you want to go to sleep. But you're not, it's not like kind of, I can't believe it. No, it's like just, there's noise. It's noise. Okay, can we begin? Have we started? Huh? Go ahead. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's an important point. Oh, you do? Okay. Welcome back. Oh, amazing. You're looking great in real life. Even though real life is not only a secondary, experience to the screen. Like when you meet a person, you say, I've met you in real life, I'd love to meet you online. Have the virtual experience. The real life experience is like way too intense. It's like got motion and energy and stuff. I'd rather just have you 2D and push pause when you get boring. Hello, Sosis, how are you doing?
Great, well.
What I want to speak to you about today, and to me also, is eating. And not to say that eating is something we have to obsess about or we have to try to control ourselves, but more to curiously explore this very fundamental part to our life and maybe grasp a little bit of spiritual insight, because it really becomes one of the axioms upon which our lives revolved spiritually, even though obviously from a physical level it's been clinically proven that if you don't eat for an extended period of time, you die. Many people have proven this over the course of history. It's called starvation. So we have no doubt that what food adds to us is life. Because when we subtract it, we die. So food is very important. It's our life force. And therefore, eating has attached to it something which is fundamental to our actual being. But there are so many different dimensions to the actual act of eating, the food we eat, the manner in which we eat it, the purpose for which we eat it, that it becomes this gigantic world. And in the spiritual framework of Yiddishkeit, it's got so many different parameters and associations, from the laws of kashrus all the way through to fasting, and then back again to the times where there are things that we are obligated to eat, like matzah on Pesach. So there's an enormous amount of eating involved in our spiritual practice. And therefore we have to reflect upon what is eating on a basic level, how do we engage in it, how do we eat better, and I'm not referring to nutrition or food, how do we eat better, how do we have a healthier, more powerful experience of the eating act, the act of eating. And I begin with the basics. The basics of the act of eating on the most fundamental physical level is an act whereby I provide nutrients to my body in order that I can continue to function. Without those nutrients, I will have no energy, So the basic act of eating is essentially me engaging with a life-giving process. When I engage in a life-giving process, that can occur on a variety of different levels. The most basic level is a pure animalistic act whereby my focus is just getting the food into my tummy based on an unthought out physical desire. And then there's different degrees. And this is funny, where human eating may even differ from animal eating. Human eating can actually be worse than animal eating, because animals don't eat foods, generally speaking, that are harmful to them. Whereas humans can consume foods or do consume foods which are very harmful to them, which would be ironic, because the very thing that you're using to generate more life becomes a thing that takes away your life, and we'll explore some of that soon. The act of eating. There's a sefer called Mea Shiloach. It's written by a great Hasidic Rabbi. They call it Ishbitzer. Ishbitzer was a very famous Rabbi. He had a very very mechudishtika way of approaching many things. And Ishbitzer explains the pasuk of Kedoshim to you. There's a pasuk in the Parashas Kedoshim. It begins, heralds in Kedoshim to you, and generally there's a difference of approach as to what Kedoshim to you means. You have to be Kadosh. The word Kadosh itself is very difficult to chap. What does it mean, Kadosh? Because the connotation of holy in our modern context is almost meaningless. What does holy mean? He's holy. What does holy mean? Does holy mean he's got a very big yarmulke, he scrunches his face like this, or shackles very hard, or only eats a certain hechsher, or he's hunched over? What does holy mean? So it's meaningless to me. I want to know what Kadosh means. Kedusha. Kiddushin. There's one context of Kadosh, which means designation. The word, the kuf dalet shin, has no inclination towards good or bad. It's designation. So if you designate something for something horrific and awful and antithetical to everything you're striving for, that's kadosh. I'll give you an example, Liam, and this is going to shock you. You ready? What do you call a prostitute? But, dramatic tension. Have you heard of dramatic tension? Right? Dramatic tension is like I look at him, he looks at me, there's this pause, he has no idea, and then I drop it. And I go, Kadesha, and then he's shocked. And then like you butt in and destroy the whole thing. Like what are you thinking?
I'm still shocked.
I know, but he ever shocked. Could have been lechatchila shocked. Kadesha, why? Because she's mekudeshes u'mezumenes liznus. She's designated for promiscuity. So she's Kadesha, designated from. So the notion of Kedusha means designated for. So when we say Kedoshim tu Hashem Elokeichem, it means you have to be designated to a higher purpose. So essentially what Kadosh means is I utilize the experience of physicality on a transcendent plane, which is a convoluted way of saying that when I act in this world, I do so with meaning and purpose beyond the actual act itself. When I eat for the sake of getting food down gullet, that's not Kaddish. When I eat for something beyond the food going down my gullet, I want to eat because I want to have energy so I can say hello. So I can be super critical in the shir and guide people on the power of dramatic pause and tension. So then I'm Kaddish because my food is taking me to another place. So Kaddish is, I use this for that. It's a higher point. And when the higher point is the highest point, Hashem Elokeichem. So Kedusha, the way we would use it in the context of Kedushim too, would be I utilize my mundane day-to-day life to elevate me to a higher plane of spiritual engagement. Which mean the way, if I'm, whatever I'm doing, yes, good? Meaning, a person could, and I suppose many do, when I say many, I mean, my middle name is many, and many does, many, is people use, you can act within the parameters of Jewish practice, but you don't have to be Kaddish. You can have a gluttonous meal. This most delicious, incredible geschmack meal. And you can do it because you love the taste, you like the appearance, and the only purpose of you getting involved in this meal.
It died.
Do you want to pause? Or no difference? No difference. That's one. You'll edit, yeah. Okay. Should I pause?
You do whatever you want to do.
I feel like you're. No, that's fine. should I just keep on going as normal and you'll just do tech stuff in the background? Because now I'm thinking to myself, if there's no audio, so this is going to be a bit of an interruption in the share.
Right. You can put that as an audio clip.
I mean, I could put, you substitute that in the audio clip.
I mean, someone could do that. I'm saying in general.
Like who? Who would be that person?
Like Ariel, his friend.
Oh, yeah, Ariel.
If he listens, you can tell him.
Ariel, I'm sure Ariel will be more than willing to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ariel's a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Great guy. Absolutely amazing guy.
Yeah.
So Kedoshim too means that you have to utilize, in other words, which is such a blessing and such a powerful thing, because the difference between, listen to this, this may be relevant, the difference between Kodesh and not Kodesh from our current 2025 perspective, I would express in the following way. It's, do I matter or don't I matter? Does what I do matter or do what I do, it's about mattering. Mattering is a huge thing. In terms of productivity, in terms of people, motivation, when people feel what they do and they themselves matter, it's jump-started, it's infused with energy. When people feel that they don't matter, what they do doesn't matter, so then it becomes quite dry and hard to engage. So now let's think about what would be an act of Kedusha, an act not with Kedusha. So if I'm just eating, let's say I'm eating a hamburger, and the whole meaning and process of eating a hamburger is eating a hamburger. And it's nothing more than just eating a hamburger. And I'm using hamburger loosely. It could be a chicken schnitzel. Yeah, it could be anything. When I eat for the sake of getting food in my tummy, that doesn't matter. Be'etzem. It's not big. It's very small. It's a small. Because it only goes as far as me and my tummy. But when I eat for a higher purpose, it means that I recognize that beyond this moment, there's so much more. There's so much more to do. This life force that I'm generating can have such a massive impact on the world. And the deeper, more potent the impact, the more alive I am in that moment, because the more relevant, the more I matter. So if I recognize that there's significance to my life, so that ramps up the significance of my eating to a whole new level. Oh my gosh, I need this life force because this life force is life-changing. But when all I think about is eating, so it doesn't matter. And I don't matter. And it's this kind of this reduction of humanity into the world of not mattering, which is this world of purposelessness, which is this world of anxiety, which is this world of depression. Depressed. The self is depressed, pushed down. So actually this unlocking Kedusha is more than just a nice thing to do. It seems to be the lifeblood of our engagement, motivation, and enthusiasm in the world. We need to eat in a way that we have purpose and direction. If we eat in a way that's purposelessness and we just pursue the taste and the culinary art of the food, so it ultimately is an act which pulls us down into an abyss of self-absorption, which means I don't matter on any larger scale than the actual food and me itself, which is immensely small. But there's something more I'd like to share with you, and this is very difficult because it's very counterintuitive and describes things on a plane which requires sensitivity of a spiritual kind. And this is the way it works. What is the problem of overeating? So now, from a physiological perspective, overeating, you could describe it on a molecular basis. You could say specifically when you're having too many glucose, which is highly likely if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, there's an overload in your system. The mitochondria in your cell can't cope with the load of glucose that's been shoveled into them in order to get it into the bloodstream in a way that's effective, and they kind of close down, and you become lethargic because you can't get the right energy at the right pace into your body, and therefore maybe after a brief glucose spike you're going to feel absolutely awful, depleted of energy and not so geschmack. obviously depending on your age and stage of life and your sensitivity. But food really kind of determines our level of energies, our level of being alive. So this is what Rabbi Nachman says in Torah Kuf Reish and Zayin, if I'm not mistaken. He says the following thing. He says that on a deeper level, the food that you eat the food itself has a purpose. The food itself has a job to do. Not only do we matter, but the things that we interact with in the world matter as well. They also want to, in some level, realize their potential. Meaning the whole world is realizing the potential. When you look at the world with spiritual eyes, inanimate objects, animate objects, plant life, everything has a deeper spiritual awareness. Like the Pasuk says in Baruch Nafshi, that the lions are mevakesh mikel ochlam. They request their food from Hashem. So you see, even animals have a connection to the spiritual. So even animals seek their perfection, seek their fulfillment, seek their completion. So now imagine this. You've got in front of you an apple. That apple has a mission to perform. What's his mission to perform? His mission to perform is to generate life inside of you. So how do you allow him to get what he needs? By eating it. When you're eating it on a conceptual level, you've allowed the apple to have a real existence. Even by the time that you've eaten it, the apple no longer has any physical form. But physical form is just a last stage manifestation of a higher spiritual energy. Just like this table is the clothing of a concept. It's all this table is for me is an idea that was in the head of the carpenter. That idea was fully articulated, but it existed in the plane of the conceptual until someone came and got the wood, put on the iron, and made it into a table. But all this is an idea dressed up. The idea exists without this. This can't exist without the idea. You can't have a table without a plan of a table. You can have a plan of a table without a table. So I could destroy this table, but since the idea exists, I could duplicate this table again. So actually, something being manifest in the physical world doesn't dictate if it's alive or dead, because its real life is above the physical world. It doesn't have physical dimensions and components. So if you think about it, let's take this apple. Here we have this apple. This apple now has its own physical dimensions and components, but also has a purpose. When does it become its most alive? Once it's eaten. Then the essence of the apple, which is this, call it the spark to maintain human life, becomes realized through my act of eating. Is that understood? Your eyes look at me with that, I don't know what you're talking about, expression upon them.
Take off my glasses.
No, you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I am, yeah.
I know you, yeah. I know you're focusing, but I'm just requesting. Do I need you flesh it out? Was that what?
You can flesh it out a little bit.
You'd like to flesh it out a little bit like this? Well, I also like jam-packed a lot of kind of new concepts in one like fell swoop. The first new concept is that the real world is not the world we can touch, feel, and experience through our senses, because that's just a manifestation of a higher world. Just like it's obvious that this table didn't self-combust, it didn't come from nowhere. It began as an idea. That idea in the head of the carpenter had no physical form. Correct? So the reality, call it the soul of this table, exists on a plane that doesn't require a physical dimension attached to it. But someone decided to build this idea into something that we can experience. But the essence, the core of this table is actually the idea behind it, not the table itself. Which means I can dismiss the table, and the idea will exist, and it may generate another table. It could. Another place, it could do it in 100 years' time, because the idea never dies. It could do it in a million miles away, because it travels through space and time, because it's real. Something which is real means it doesn't ever expire. This will expire. The idea will never expire, because the idea is real. So actually this first paradigm shift is the reality is not what we can touch and feel and experience, it's what we can't touch, feel, and experience. How's that for new? Like everything that we think is real, what's more real? The table or the idea of the table? The idea of the table is way more real. It can last throughout space and time without even flinching. This thing is going to one day be destroyed. So what's real is the thing that's above the physical world. What's unreal is the physical world. The world that we can touch and feel is a world that will die and expire. Reality means something that will last forever in its ultimate sense. The example of anti-reality is something which is just an illusion. It happens and then disappears. Real means it stands forever. So the ideas of the world stands forever. This comes and goes. So what's the reality of an apple? The reality of the apple isn't the actual apple itself. It's the purpose that the apple contains. Well, what's the purpose of the apple? The purpose of the apple is to give me life. So when does the apple realize its purpose? When it gives me life. Now that the apple is almost in an activated fashion, it becomes something that it always wanted to be, which was continued existence by providing me with human life. Good? Step number 1. So I eat the apple, and I needed to eat the apple. Geschmack. I get my life force from the apple, and in doing so, I give the apple life. Because now the giving of the life means that now the apple has a continued existence. Now the apple's relevant. Now the apple matters. Now the apple has done something valuable. Yes? So, ironically, by the apple giving me life, I give the apple life. By it giving me life, I give it life. Good? It's a whole new way of thinking about food, right? You look at the food on your plate and you think, okay, boys, I'm doing this for you. You look at those chips and you say, men, I'm here for you, baby. And you look at that steak, you go, You think I need you? You need me. And you have this thing where you, through engaging in the world, you're constantly, which is quite fascinating. As you take, you give. You can't actually exist as a giver. You have to, everything you do, give something to something else, even if it's an inanimate object. But you're creating it. That's how relevant you are. That's how much you matter. That's how powerful you are. It's incredible. It's probably going to take a lot of time for this idea to sink in because it's so revolutionary. So revolutionary. Like if you are understanding this idea right now, and so I'm really glad that you're not. You've got that expression of like, oh my gosh, when it's actually going to end, it's hard to know, but it may be soon, but it may not be soon. But you can just hope that it's going to be soon. So it's a revolution. It's a revolution, but the revolution is so empowering. It means that this act of eating, which until now I looked upon as just on a very basic level, I'm putting food in my body. No. There's like this whole deep mechanism that goes on behind, and this food that somehow managed to find its way onto your plate now needs you to give it life in a eternal sense. You're going to emancipate the energy within this food forever through your utilization of it. So you're a savior of the food. You come there to rescue your plate. It's awesome. You think you're Mashiach, you go in there into the lunchroom, it's all happening. Okay? But this is the tricky part. When is it true that the food reaches its purpose through this engagement when it gives you life? Which means you have a need and it provides the need that you had. What happens? What happens, the long S, what happens when you don't need the food? You've eaten to your full. There's no need inside of you to provide, that the food can provide. Now, therefore, that food that you're about to eat, which is unnecessary, has no role to play in your life. So when you eat it, you haven't given it anything, because it's now irrelevant. It's almost as if it's coming to help you, but it hasn't been able to help you, so it has to be put on the side. So conceptually, instead of the food going inside and filling you, it gets cast aside into an ashtray on the side. Good? Now there's a deeper problem here. Because that food is now discarded, it becomes desperate to maintain its life. But it can't because it has nothing to elevate it. So it goes back to its source that made it disintegrate and says, I can't get my life from the process they engaged in, and therefore I'm going to borrow from your life force. I'm going to subtract your life force to keep me going. And therefore, the excess food that you eat comes and steals your energy away from you in order that it can have some continued existence. Since you were the guilty party that didn't use it in the right way, you now become responsible for its continued existence. But since it didn't do anything for you, so therefore it doesn't have an existence, so therefore it actually takes the life out of you. So this is a completely different reading of what happens when you overeat. Physiologically, when you overeat, the reason why you feel lethargic and tired and you can't move is because it's all based on a whole lot of chemical reactions in your body. Spiritually, this is what happens. The food that you needed to eat would generate life, it would give you energy, everything would be good. If you're feeling lethargic, it means you overstepped a boundary. You ate something that you didn't need. Because you ate something you didn't need, this food is now wandering around thinking, I'm going to die. There's nothing that can give me life. Because I could only have life by doing something purposeful for you, but I didn't do that. I didn't do something perfect. What can I do? I need something to life. He goes back to you and he steals your life force. And then you feel lethargic and fatigued. Yeah, in other words, it's a very different level of a different kind of cause and effect than we would have seen from the eyes of physiologically when you look through a spiritual lens. It's not that you feel tired after you've overeaten because of some kind of physiological reaction. You feel tired because you're overeaten because you've actually betrayed your relationship with the external world by not giving it a place to be and giving it life. So you've taken it and you've removed it from its purpose, so it goes back to you and takes you. It takes away you've taken away its life, it takes away your life. Isn't that the most crazy thing in the world, Sauls?
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Like, whoever thinks that way? So this is like I read this, I learned this, and I've been working on this for the last week or so, and it's been like, whoa! It's like such a different. It's like it's acting. It's living life on such a different plane. Do you understand? It's a completely different plane. It's like the whole thing, the whole way that I normally process life is thrown out the window, and it's giving me a whole new series of cause and effects, which gives me a whole different relationship to my interaction with the physical world.
I was under the understanding that when you make a bracha, you give the food its performance.
Right. Well, we have to figure out. I haven't even figured out how brachas fit into this equation, because I would have to say that the bracha doesn't do it all. Meaning, after the bracha, there's still something else that needs to happen. There still has to be a balance and alignment. It can't just be say the bracha and then I can just gorge myself.
This applies to things more than just food?
Sorry?
Does this apply to things more than just food? I got it.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Any physical thing, I guess.
Well, I would be a little bit cautious going too far with it. Like at this point in time, to me, it's just like so extremely fascinating that my world of eating is how do I allow things to come and realize their potential through my interaction with them, and therefore I'm constantly checking in with my physical body to see have I extended beyond the point of what I need, because then I'm not allowing this thing to do what it needs to do. It's so other focused even in what's essentially a selfish act. And the other focus is not even on another person, it's just on this interaction with spiritual being, which means it's allowing me, it's inviting me through my meal to occupy spiritual space. So I'm saying this to you not because I have any expectations that any of you are going to practice this or even try to practice this, but more to just open our minds to a world that's just so unexpected. When we think about eating, I think my capacity to actually think, well, how deep does eating go, didn't get remotely close to this. I never, if you would have not introduced me to the shtickle and then you've spoken to me about eating, I can't imagine that in 1,000 years I would ever have interpreted the sense of lethargy after overeating in this fashion. And therefore I find this fascinating. Now, what about practice? What happens when I've got in front of me food and I've got this challenge? Do I overeat or don't I overeat? I overeat. Because I learned this many days ago, and since then I've been consistently overeating. Consciously. Meaning, consciously, not that I'm going to do a badafka, but I'm aware that my body no longer needs the food, and but I want to eat it. And I've been curious as to, well, if my body no longer eats the food, so what am I eating it for? And sometimes it's because of neatness. There's like, the food that I feel like I need to finish it off, like there's a task that I need to complete. And sometimes it's because I feel like I need a different taste in my mouth. And sometimes I think it's because I feel that if I eat that food, there'll be something inside me that will be fulfilled, and that's the one I'm playing around with. But in other words, knowing this hasn't stopped me from eating in a way that's destructive to myself yet. Will it? I don't know. I mean, change is incremental and takes time, right? It's not. But I thought it'd be valuable to just like get to that level. I don't know. Did anyone, or was this too abstract that it became? I tried to make it. Was this so removed from my experience of existence that it just basically was irrelevant? No?
No. I often find that like there's a level, even in a lunchroom or lunch or supper, that like I can feel that I've had enough. It's just that like I want more. It's like, oh wow, why do I want more? I can feel that I'm fine. I like this. Like, if I eat more, then maybe it'll fill something in me, even though I'm already full from the food.
And so it comes. It's amazing place where there's a bechira between life and not life that we have. Like the whole origin of choice is ubocharta b'chaim. Bechira means to choose life. So I never would have thought that one of the essential battles of where that occurs when we get there slowly is actually like halfway through my meal. And it's tricky because how do you actually gauge? And I've been playing around with this. I'm not quite sure how I gauge when I'm full. I mean, there clearly are times when I'm full, but being full is different from having as much as I need. So it's opened up to me the sugya, and I thought, well, I'll share that with you, and then maybe it'll just help you to think creatively about eating and stuff.
How would this concept work with like a food that's like intrinsically harming, like?
Right. So it could be that we have to think one step back. What would be the purpose of a food that's intrinsically harming? I would imagine that food doesn't realize its purpose by me eating it. Rav Nachman brings example of medicines. He says the reason why medicines, which I assume in his time it wasn't like there were pharmaceutical companies, they're all these like crazy grasses and spices, and you probably thought, well, what's their job? Well, their job, he said, they have a chiyus, they have a job because they heal. So that's important, they have something to do. But I would imagine if, by the same token, if you take a medicine when you don't need it, so then that's not going to help it. So it could be that these foods which are harmful and they actually don't give you chiyus, their purpose is something else. I don't know what it is.
And how would it explain, let's say, if someone's eating because he needs it emotionally, although it will make him tired, why would that, if he's fulfilling, like he is using it for a higher purpose?
Well, I wonder. Then, like as we go into the details, things become tricky. Is emotional eating, is it helpful or unhelpful?
No, so I'm saying, let's say a case
in a
where
simcha.
it would be,
Ein simcha ela babasa v'yayin.
It would be like justifiable, let's say.
Right. No, ein simcha babasa v'yayin. In other words, the reason why we have geschmack of food on Shabbos is because of oineg Shabbos. It adds to our emotional experience. As we're eating, it's going to tweak our emotions in a very good way. So
it'll anyway have an effect of me getting tired. Which, why will it?
But why would it have an effect if you're getting tired? In the world of Reb Nachman, the tiredness comes when the food needs its chiyas from you because you didn't do right with it. So if you do right with it, it should give you energy.
So like the quick snack would be fine?
If you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. he's not looking at it through the eyes of glucose spikes. It's a different perspective. To me, that's a big chiddush. That like this like new, like you're seeing, it's a different world. You see a different world.
What about eating just when you're bored? Just eating. Bored, yeah.
Yeah,
You're
so
not actually
that's
hungry, but
so that's
you want to do something.
that's exactly what he's saying, and that doesn't help. That hurts. That takes away life. That doesn't give
But
life.
it makes you feel like you're doing something.
I mean, there are plenty of things that make you feel like you're doing something. It doesn't mean they're healthy. If you'd like a list of them, you can go to NUSPA.
Adding on to his question, some people have like sensitivities or allergic to certain foods. Does that mean that?
Some people?
Yeah, like me.
Okay.
Does that mean that the food's purpose is more than that? It's not just a food as a purpose. For each person, it's got a different purpose.
Zoikum tois, right? There's certain people, for example, who are allergic to things. So for those people, that if they're allergic to, let's say, gluten, so that thing is not specified for them. So it becomes quite specific. That it's your hamburger. It's only your hamburger. But that piece of bread, it's his piece of bread. It just gives a whole new like level of Hashem, like godliness in this whole thing called life. Okay. Ad kan. Thank you.